Welcome back with Dialectric Fort. We are still here at the Frederickson Fort, or Fort Frederick, and I'm still here with these historical ladies. So I want to definitely continue the conversation, right? So as you know, Sommer built, along with other people, I'm not going to say it's just you, but I want you to tell us the structure that you built, because just for anybody who has never heard it, never came across it, how would you describe what it is and what was the beginning of it?
How would I describe VA Good Food? Okay, so Virgin Islands Good Food, like in the paperwork, is a place-based nonprofit that serves the territory. So we serve all 4 islands, St. Croix, St. Thomas, St. John, and Wata Island. And what we do is, the goal of what we do is we're trying to bring about a thriving and just food system in the Virgin Islands, right? So we look at food security, we talk about food sovereignty, and we talk about sustainable and regenerative agriculture. That's the language that they in the 990. So if you don't know, if you're looking to open a nonprofit, like one of the things you got, right, the federal government is like, what are you going to do in your work, right? What that really means in plain language is that we support farmers. We support households in gaining access to local food. And in the beginning, we were a bit of a Swiss Army knife. So when I say that, you know, like with a Swiss Army knife, it got all these different tools in it, right?
The little scissors and the,
yeah, right? So I see us as a Swiss Army knife because it's like, if there is a problem, we try to either engineer ourselves into a tool to help that problem resolve. Once the problem is resolved or somebody more fit to hold it for a longer time comes about, then we can release it and give it to you. So like Good Food is a Swiss Army knife, which means we're pretty broad. We have market access programs, which means like we connecting a farmer to a market. We have advocacy. We're always studying the Farm Bill. We there testifying at the legislature. We do outreach and education. We've done cooking classes for youth. We do education classes for farmers. We have a virtual farmers marketplace that we're launching. Currently, right now, we're making new products that could possibly go into school lunch from our wasted fruit. And so like, we don't be like, when you hear about the work we did, it'll be like, these people is all over the place. And yeah, we are a big tent waiting for our partners to arise. And in the past 10 years, a lot of partners have arisen. So VI Good Food is a part of an ecosystem that have other farmers and other farming organizations across the Virgin Islands that we work with. And we have a lot of national partners, but we also have Caribbean-based partners. Like we just came back from Jamaica with our partner Source Farm. We have partners in San Andres or St. Andrews, Colombia with the Rizal people. We got partners in Vieques. We got partners in Puerto Rico. We got partners Black Dirt in DC. Like, so we're ecosystem builders, basically, for food security and sovereignty.
So I wanted to get into that. So the food security and sovereignty. Can you explain that to layman terms for everybody? Because I think that's a term that's floated, but I don't think is like broken out like for the common person to understand what it is. Break it down for us.
I see Darren make me lean forward, right? No. So, okay, simples on food security. I count food security in 2 ways. There's household food security and there's territorial or national food security. So household food security is like we care or making sure that every household in the Virgin Islands have access to food in regular times and in disaster times. So like for us, then we count in boxed food, canned food, preserved food. We just know that people need to eat. People should be eating on a daily basis, right? Don't have nothing to do with the nutrient density. Don't have nothing to do with the quality of food. Hurricane thinking, right? Are you food secure? Then when you think about food security on a territorial level, now I'm thinking, how much food do we have in case of an emergency? Like if the ships don't come, right? What is the Virgin Islands plan to feed its 80 to 100,000 residents across 3 different islands? Where are our food stores? What do we produce locally and put away so that we have access to, yes, in regular market days, but also, again, in case of emergency. So for me, food security That's an access question, right? It's not so much a quality question all the time, and it's on two levels. What do houses have, and then what territorially are we having in stockpile or available so people can access food?
I want to throw something out, right? Because I think this is a term that I think you would be familiar with. Can you describe what a food desert is?
So I can't describe what a food desert is, and I want to introduce something different. So we know when we think about deserts, right? People think that deserts are barren. So when someone says you live in a food desert or it is a food desert, right? We're saying that these are areas, right, that no food exists. We try and say like things brown, it dry, ain't got nothing. The challenge with that, right, though, is that deserts are naturally occurring ecosystems and biomes. If your child lay in 5th or 6th grade, you won't come across it in the textbook, right? And the things that are supposed to survive in the desert, they actually know where to find food and water. So we don't want to misnomer the desert as just because it's arid as a bad environment. The things that are supposed to survive in a desert know what it is. I would like Virgin Islanders to start considering food apartheid, because it's the deliberate engineering of certain communities and certain people or certain global systems not having access to food. There is food, and there is a system that controls who gets what, at what quality, in what ratio, at what price. And so a desert is naturally occurring.
So, it's funny you said that, because I always thought food deserts had to do with nutrition, right? Like, so they have access to food, but not nutritionally dense food. And so I'm glad that you separating the thought from me, because in my mind, when I think food desert, it's not that people don't have access to eat food. They just don't have access to food that's rich in nutrition. Mm-hmm. So that makes us depreciate in our health.
But you're right. So nutrition is a part of the food desert theory, right? Mm. Because when you look at places, you're looking at access to grocery stores, but then you're looking at access to quality of food, right? So a lot of places nationally that you consider a food desert, you're looking at a lot of corner stores, a lot of like gas station food. So the nutrition component is one of the measures of food deserts. And my point is, like, deserts happen naturally. What is happening in our communities isn't natural. It's actually thought out. It's engineered. It's food redlining. And so apartheid is more appropriate because it is deliberately designed, and we can undesign it, which is one of the reasons why we believe that a thriving, just, equitable food system is possible if we build an ecosystem that supports it. And I want to be clear. I'm not saying that we would never import anything, because I do think we would import things. We have a global palette here in the Virgin Islands.
It's important for trade.
Right? And import and export is important for trade.
Humans have been surviving.
But I think people, when you tell me something is a desert, I can't solve what desert is. You know why? Because God make that. When you tell me something is apartheid and I could engineer it, that means that we could take all the brilliant minds that are here in the Virgin Islands, in the Caribbean, and around the globe, and design something different that serves us more. It ain't gonna be perfect either. I'm sure 10 years from now, whatever we would choose to design, somebody else would have a problem with.
So I'm glad that you brought up, and I'm glad that you guys gave all their perspectives. And I'm gonna be vulnerable for a second, right? I'm clearly a very plus-size dude, right? And you talk about the food not rich in nutrients, right? If it's a purposeful act, is it marketing? Is it how we transport our foods? Obviously, this is also a choice as well too, but it could be because there's a limit of access of said nutrient food. I also wanted to bring that up because maybe we haven't thought about it. Are we becoming a food desert?
So, I want to name as
food apartheid.
Say it loud.
I said the food basket of the Caribbean is now a food desert. What is going on? Like, how did that system evolve? And honestly,
they told us
that's
we
something
were affected poor health, and I never thought about that as derogatory, because what it said to me when the president came here in the early.
Which president? Okay. Yeah.
Lyndon Johnson.
That where we outwardly may not have a lot, we were sustaining ourselves, and then industry was decided for us.
That's the
and
thought
so we
process.
moved out of
That's the stuff right there.
into industry. We might not have been rich in that sense, but we were
fed.
feeding ourselves.
So I really think it's prolific that I'm here with Emmanuella and Chalana because we're talking about the intersections, education, policy, and culture and cultural policy and identity. But I want to answer your question because as like a morbidly obese woman, because that's my classification when I go to the doctor, who is suffering from polycystic ovarian syndrome, who is at risk for diabetes, like chronic diseases that are based on, these are the non-communicable chronic diseases. So they are lifestyle diseases that you can pass genetically, but also can be healed by what we eat. I want to say, Darren, that there is something to it because when you look across indigenous communities and when you look across territories, rural communities and inner cities, the obesity index, one of America, is great, but in our communities it's greater. So it goes to their engineering also working to decline our health, right? So we do have choice, but choice is built off of the policies that are around you in terms of what you have access to. It's built off of your cultural identity of what is food, how you interact with outdoors. So this, when I say apartheid, it's not this light, like it's about how we have been separated from the legacy of having people who are centennials because they were eating food from this earth. Effective poorhouse. We have to acknowledge that one of the reasons we were effective in anything, even pre-emancipation, right? Before we were emancipated, is we are known as the breadbasket for making other people rich, not because we had source production. You have to ask ourselves, if something that we consider to be cultural food, Chalana, is herring, smoked herring, and fungi, and dumpling, right? Like Ojani cake. We don't have a flour mill, we don't have a corn mill, and we don't have no place that's salting mass beef or fish, even kalaloo, right? People, you may have salted beef at home then because we had the free, but think about it. So those sardine and mackerel is not indigenous to our waters. So those fish were being imported, right? Just like the labor for the slavery was imported, what they were feeding us was imported, and we had provision grounds that we used, but this idea that at one point the Virgin Islands was self-sufficient and we were getting there before, right, with the first new Green Deal, when that has been referenced in the source article, right, like big up David Bond, the author who did this series, right? So we had the ability to get there, but the population was also very much smaller. Like it was in a transition point. So the point is, I know I could go on and on about this forever because I want people to have clarity. What we experience in health and food is by design. The only way to shift it, Sommer has personal choice, but for the next generation to not have to even consider maybe some of the things that I have made as personal choices, is we have to change the policies, the systems, the education and opportunities. Mean saying that gonna make everybody slim and skinny. It's not a GLP-1. But we will have more people who have the opportunities to choose health.
Yeah.
So we talked earlier about exposure, right? And that was the whole point. We teaching our children what to think for so long that for me it was like, no man, we gotta teach our children how to think. And the people wait. I
want you to repeat that one more time.
So I felt like we had to teach our children how to think, and how to think comes from the opportunities and exposure you have in your mind. So if I know about these different things, then I go start to take advantage of these certain things, or make the action or the choices based on my best interest. And if my best interest is not eating this type of food in abundance, because I'm going to live longer, I'm going to have a healthier lifestyle. You're going to make it because you've learned how to think. You've learned how to make choices that are in the best interest of your survival, whether it's a collective survival or individual survival. And that's for me why I got into education. And when Sommer was the first person to teach me about food and how it's coming in here, and I swear the first time she told me this, now, if anybody's been following good food long enough, you know that Sommer started off about 5-10 years ago saying 99% of our food is imported. Boy, listen.
Wait, repeat that one more time. I want you to repeat that one more time.
99% of our food is imported. When Sommer said that, that for me, raised in you have to own a piece of the rock, you have to. I said, oh man, we dead before we start 99. What are we producing? Especially since, and Sommer knows we have these conversations, we give so much farmland out. We've got so much farmers. In my mind, I'm seeing all these things. I know about the agriculture. I seen Bermuda's bull pasture across. He can't do 2%. Like, they're not cows across the street from my house to feed the people at 2%. And that's when I recognized, like, oh, this is a bigger thing. Some of it designed, and when you talk about how our food is, we don't make other people eat well. We've always been importing food to make us eat well.
This colony is meant as an export. It's never meant for nationhood and how it was built. We are not part of this land. We are extracted from another homeland and brought here to bring wealth. And so now we have to do nation building, right? And that's where we talk about imagination, right?
Yes.
As the greatest art form. All of this plays a role into that because this is a home that now we have to have autonomy over. We didn't have autonomy over it. We're very young. We're very young.
Very young.
Very young.
But Chalana, I could ask you a question. You believe that we could have autonomy without identity?
No. So that's why I was.
I do.
Sort of.
Not completely, but we do.
I was offended because somebody in the chat said something about me being xenophobic, and it really bothered me because I was like, I recognize the transnational state of this space, and I can grandfather back colonial systematic frameworks. And although I know I am, connected to Barbados, we are connected to Eustatia, we're connected to all other parts of the islands here. Mm-hmm. There is something to be said where you have to build the space of where you're at. We're from different parts of the Caribbean, and we are definitely iterations of West African culture, but we have to also start thinking about nation building. And so while I might say I have heritage from Eustatia, my first identity, in my opinion, inarguable, is that you're a Virgin Islander. And that's how we build nationhood. And then that's when we talk about autonomy.
So let me go back to how young we are, though, right? So you asked about autonomy. Autonomy comes in our governance. So we don't have full control, right? Like, I wish we had full control, but our ancestors and the developers of, getting us the Organic Act of 1954 said at least get us the space where they could build. Before, we didn't even have the space. But I think when we got the space, we just try to fill it, and we do this all the time. It's such an injustice to us because maybe lack of imagination. We don't give time to how to build a system. Instead, we adopt systems. So we got the Organic Act. Yes, you can create your own. And you know what we say as people? We're going to take the trade from this person, and we're going to take this person's approach to doing this, versus looking at how we want, at least with food. I think with food, we could create autonomy. Seriously, like, I think we have a space in our governance where we could sit down and say, we can't change and control everything, but there should be a level of importability and a level of exportability. The fact that they don't allow us to export on the same level that they allow us to import, we should be fighting on that level. And I think that would be the first step in our autonomy to food.
No, so I want to continue this, right? Because we have the intersectionality of agriculture, education, and policy, right? So I want to go back to something that Sommer brought up. We have a lot of these cultural foods that we're accustomed to. We talk about the smoked herring and stuff, right? No, I want you to expand about that because I think that's what I want to bring it up because I was going to say, as we all know, culture is fluid. But if we're being honest with ourselves, and this is going to be a little tough to hear, some of our cultural foods are not good for us, right? In the way it's either being made, how it's exported, or if we could locally source it, right? Do you believe there's a space that we need to start making adjustments?
You ladies, I have very strong opinions about this.
I want you to give them.
Go ahead and give your opinion.
No, so first of all, I actually don't think that our cultural foods are bad for us. I think that the ingredients that we use are filled with preservatives and they have changed the quality of cultural food. The centurions that we talk about used to eat roast pork and seasoned rice. They used, you know what I mean? They used to eat stuffing. They don't eat all the things that we talk about. I think frequency.
But not every day.
I think ingredients, I think frequency, and I also think like salt and sugar content were very different in the original way that these foods were prepared. I also think they lived more physical lifestyle. But the one thing that puts it in my craw about this is people from the outside who don't know anything about who we are, our history, have come in and assessed our food based on American diet and say, you're bad, that's wrong, don't eat what you identify with, right? And I feel like we actually need to push back and be like, no, we're going to eat the things that we identify and we're going to eat them in the traditional ways in the appropriate times, and that we're going to reclaim our health that way. So to your point, Emmanuella, no, we don't eat roast pork every day, but we don't eat roast pork. Like, they ate much lighter. They would have tea and maybe porridge for breakfast, right? Every day wasn't seasoned rice, baked macaroni, stuffing. And every size plate of food wasn't this jumbo, like, which we are accustomed to. It was different frequencies.
But it was also difference in how we were able to afford it. We've invested in ourselves and become richer. Like, as people, I mean, I'm not saying the Virgin Islands and a collective is rich, but a lot of Virgin Islanders living today are living very wealthy lifestyles, right? Not just 3 square meals a day. You're eating 3 top-level square meals a day. And so that is also contributing to the effects on our health. However, I agree with you 100%, Sommer, because as a person who has a lot of Southern background, I raised on ham hocks and black eyed peas, right? Like, and you know, cornbread and collard greens. They're all starches, they're all sugars, they're all sweets. It's what our ancestors used to make us survive, but happily, right? Like, these things bring joy to us. So our food is associated also with our celebrations.
That's
our joy.
an important part of our culture.
It's important, exactly. Well, if you don't have joy, I don't care how much healthy food you eat. If you don't have a level of joy inside of you, those foods will have the same toxic effect on your body as grease and lard.
So I want to ask this, so I want to jump in that part. What can we do on the educational side, whether that's teaching the kids or by policy, how we can do that to start shifting the collective to a better, quality of life?
So Dara, when I first got into wanting to run for the Board of Education, it was 100%. We want more arts. We want to make sure that our children are being educated. And I applaud the work. Me and someone argue all the time about little things because she don't think a lot of progress has been made. I think a lot of progress has been made because when we started this, we did not have a school of agriculture. We did not have even a curriculum or a discussion around what agriculture looks like. We always had agriculture programs, right? Like, if any of you went to public school, Central High had agriculture in the back, Complex had agriculture in the back.
Yes.
But it wasn't taught like an industry. It wasn't taught on all of the levels. We thought it was pour something in the ground, grow it, sell it. Wow, that's agriculture. Thanks to this movement of good food, we know that there's people in the labs, there's people in the industry of marketing it, there's people in the industry of making sure that food production is exported and imported. So I personally, when I got in there, I was like, yeah, we're going to bring this to the table. It has not been a flip-flop. But we've seen those little things implemented, and the conversation now, Darren, is at the table, and it was not there in 2020 when I started this. In my second term now, we can call that in a committee meeting and people aren't like, she's stone crazy. What's she talking about? We got agriculture already. No.
So I want to now integrate the both of you guys, right? How do we now prepare the people for the coming of the industries that we're going to open up with good food? How do we prepare the students for that future?
Oh, it's happening.
We now have a sustainability division in the Virgin Islands Department of Education. So there's a whole division built upon that. So I would say kudos to all the outside and internal partners
Our
that
colleges
have made that possible, and they work greatly and collaboratively with Virgin Islands Good Food Coalition. I'm privy to those conversations. We work together a lot, those divisions, Miss Meadows and Miss Bryan, to try to bring about awareness. And of course, I think nationhood building is part of media. In the more you show, the more people will absorb and effectuate. So grateful for conversations like this, but we also have to have that cool factor. Talk about that a lot. Sommer is a very attractive person, and she always shows up, like in her best, because food is sexy as well.
I don't show up rough, but yeah, that's still my best.
She shows up rough sometimes, but I love it. But we have to make it appealing. It's going to be a marketing
It's in the process, though.
strategy as well.
We're on the move.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing I also would, in a lot of this, right, a lot of what we talked about, the thing that doesn't escape me is how do we get to this place in terms of agriculture, right? For me, I'm not asking you guys to say this, but for me, my personal opinion is that we undervalue and serve the Department of Agriculture. Like, they have one of the tiniest budgets. And I don't know why it escapes us that. I think the part of the problem is, like you said earlier, we think about agriculture, we put something in the ground, we hope it grows well, and then we try to sell. Like, there's so much more that comes from it. Like, I remember when we talked with Mr. Brown from Sage Farms, he talked about it's integrating our clothing, our lives. Why do we think, so I'll ask you, Sommer, why do you think that we don't have agriculture more in the forefront when we talk about policies, laws?
No, go ahead. I just want to say, just from my political perspective, right? People put money behind what people want. Right? I know we in the Virgin Islands like to talk about things that we want, but when we sit down and we look at the money, all of a sudden, that's not important, right? So if you're saying, why don't we? It's because it's not a big factor. Why did we continue subsidizing WAPA? Because that's what we chose as a people to do. We elect the same people who do it. We make sure when it passes that we sit down and we allow it to do it. We don't inform language around it. So a part of it is what we have to accept that we want. These things you're willing to sacrifice for, Darren. If tomorrow they come and tell you, Darren, $50 billion. If you lose weight in 6 months, Darren, I guarantee you go put in the effort.
Listen, I didn't pull up. Listen, I was drinking water, orange juice. I was doing all of that.
I drop it now.
That is exactly the same thing with industries and in governments. When we look at how much are we going to get back from this, the people who are in charge of our budgeting, our legislature, of the last 35 of them, didn't feel like agriculture is where we should be putting our funding. And we keep electing it because we as a people did it. This discussion started, though, 10 years ago. So I believe the next two going to have senators in there, people going to back people who's looking to put support behind these industries.
So I don't often talk about what I experience as cognitive dissonance, and so I don't use myself, right? I was the good food lady, and I have been to the ag fair, the agriculture fair, right? Like Good Fair Day, all the cultural food that done the next side. I could talk to I about that in a different rant. However, and be like, yeah, something happened that frustrated me, and I jump in my car and drive to McDonald's. I the load when the Kentucky dude, they'll be like, use the girl who'll be on TV with her local food. And I'll be like, dude, you could just give me my 3-piece spicy and let me go. What you calling me out? Yes, no, give me my Coke, right? Because there are ideas, ideals, and values that we have up here that our behaviors as a society don't match. And so part of what I have to, because I used to be the pointing at them, right, and thinking that this is malicious and malfeasance, and some of it is like just incompetence, right? I'm really ready to point the finger at our leaders and our community in a way. And then I was like, well, if you don't leave the fair and go eat a quarter pounder, but you actually really want to support the farmers, or you don't wake up every Saturday and go spend your $5 at the local market, we have to take what is stopping you who don't do this for a living from walking in this thing fully. Because if it's stopping you, Sommer, and you know for a fact that your intention is to bring about this change, you live in this 7 days a week. Why you ain't think other people have those barriers? And I don't often feel this liberal. Emmanuella don't gotta fight me down to help me get here, right? Like hold up the mirror and like talk about my own behaviors. And so I think some of the barriers addressing the cognitive dissonance and our priorities and our trauma-informed behaviors, because food is a comfort to me, right? And so when something is hard, I default to my comfort patterns, which happen to be fast food. I'm not blaming it all on emotions, but like just think about how many other people have trauma-informed behaviors and things that are patterns that even though we say we value Chiran, yes, we value culture, but those food, agriculture, culture, and education, if we were to assess the state of them in the Virgin Islands, right? We would be like, oh, we're not really prioritizing these things in a different way. And everybody in the system is a bunch of people who don't care. That's not me talking. My answer is yes. That's Emmanuella talking through me, who is like, take a minute and think we do have a larger problem. And I feel like these conversations hopefully help us to get past, like there's a systemic issue. There's this long, big problem. Many people are trying to attack it. Yeah, and I do believe some people are corrupt and some people are incompetent and some people just don't care. But are those people the majority? Probably not, right? There's some systems we need to change and more of these conversations. I would like to say the short answer if we want this to change is listen to me. But I actually have to, like, I'm smart. You should just do what I say. And I actually know that's the answer I have 4 days a week. That's actually not the right answer. It will need all of us on different perspectives.
Listen, there's so much more we could get into, and I'll tell you this, there's so much topics I want to dive into, but we might have to save it for another time. But lastly, what I want you guys to do is let's wrap it up. First, I want you guys to tell us what you're currently working on, your social media handles, and also what shows that you're a part of. So let me start with my good friend here, Chalana.
So I have had the capability of stewarding something that Miss Asta Williams and the Petersons have done for a long time, and that's the act of masquerading traditions. And so the name of that program is Keeping Masquerading Traditions Alive, which is an iteration of Ngungun traditions from Africa. And I would like to thank Singore Foundation for supporting like that. I'm actively engaged with being a partner to organizations such as the Good Food Coalition and to many civic and historical organizations such as the Society of Virgin Islands Historians, which is a great partner to us, and to people like Myron Jackson and Karen Tolan, who I as I spoke about before. I want that the Division of Cultural Education is a bridge between external partners and our internal school system. And I'm actively just working on being a better historian and telling the story of the Virgin Islands through multiple lenses.
And of course, he's part of the Dialogue 340 family. But I wanted to give her I wanted to talk to her from a different aspect this time around. So let's go to Emmanuella.
So the first thing I'm doing is trying to become a part of the 340 Dialogue family, and so I'm actively looking for. I'm always about youth development, and so the program that I've helped to co-create is Fire is Lit, which is fueling youth reading with leaders in training. We take teenagers and teach them the Orth and Gillingham approach so that they can go back and teach first graders how to read. We feel like there's a direct link to literacy, and there's a direct feeling of not being under siege when they're doing it with other teenagers. But the miracle of this work, whereas we intended to start off just teaching young people how to read, what we've been making is great civic service. And people in the teenagers in the Virgin Islands are understanding that they have a greater role to helping to serve. So that's the blessing behind A Fire is Lit. Of course, I am on the Board of Education. Thank you, Virgin Islands, for electing me to that space, because that's one of my greatest honors, to work for the people as an elected officer. And on every and any other place they need me to be a good Indian. I don't need a lot of spaces because I'm a way better Indian than I am as a chief. And actually, as I grow older, I like my Indian roles, right? So I support a lot of nonprofits. I support programs. I support whatever you need me to be. I serve.
So I guess that leads me. We talked a lot today. Thank you for the platform for VI Good Food, and thank you for bringing my sisters and friends to sharing a story, and also hopefully help people in the Virgin Islands see that none of these issues exist by themselves. So I'm grateful for this platform, Emmanuella, and I also have a platform. That's what she said. So we're in 6 or 7. We've done
7 this week.
7 weeks in a row
episodes in.
of being on air from 11 to 1 on Row FM 101.3. But there's also a podcast of Seed and Soil, which is related to VI Good Food, which tells the stories of Virgin Islanders from land and food perspective and even advocacy. Season 2 gonna be coming out soon. I'm a part of the future. So if you hear people buzzing about the future out there, which is a political action committee helping to bring about policy change in the VI. I am a part of that. And again, shout out to I want to big up Island Food Security, We Grow Food, Virgin Islands Farmers Alliance, and Farmers in Action, because I don't stand on my own shoulders. I am a part of an ecosystem, and these people have been doing work way before me, so that I could stand up and be amplified. There's 965 farmers in the Virgin Islands. I had to talk to 60 of them directly almost every day when I need information in our WhatsApp chat. So anything, if you thought I said something that was smart or cool, know that I got 6 other organizations, plus other nonprofits, plus other humans, and definitely farmers and fishers who pouring into me so I could come out anywhere and sound remotely smart. So I want to big up how community helps inform me.
All right. Well, to finish it up, thank you guys for being here.
Thank you for having
Huge
us.
shout out for DPNR for allowing us this great space, being in this historical place with these historical ladies. So once again,
Dive into that next episode.
we won't dive into it. But just know,
Ladies.
it's not the last you're going to see of these young ladies. Of course, you're going to see Chalana quite often. But once again, thank you guys. Dialogue 340, we are out.